She wanted her ex at our wedding, so I gave him the best seat in the house, right next to the guy she cheated with. I didn't plan it that way at first. I didn't even know she'd invited him, until I found the guest list by accident. One night around 1 a.m., she was asleep on the couch, television still on, some reality show buzzing in the background, and her laptop was just sitting there. I walked past it to grab some water, but the screen caught my eye. It was open to the spreadsheet. Wedding seating master list? And yeah, I looked. Not gonna lie, it wasn't like I went snooping. I just saw a name that shouldn't have been there. Nathan R. No notes, no warning, just sitting at table 4 like it was nothing. Nate, her ex. The one she told me was a closed chapter. The one she cried about once after too much wine. The one she said she blocked on everything. I stood there staring at it. For maybe 30 seconds. Maybe a full minute. Just frozen. You ever see something so small but feel your stomach drop instantly? That's what it felt like. I closed the laptop, didn't say a word, walked back to bed, and didn't sleep a damn second that night. I kept hearing her voice in my head, the way she said, I don't even think about him anymore. Sure, I waited a few days, thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was some other Nate. Maybe I was being, whatever, controlling. But then things started lining up. She started laughing at texts a little too hard, keeping her phone screen tilted away. She'd disappear into the bedroom to take quick calls with the door half shut. And still, I said nothing, just watched, waited. And the worst part? She didn't even seem guilty. She acted like everything was normal, like I was the one going crazy. So I decided to act normal too. I helped her plan the reception. I smiled during the tastings. I even helped design the seating chart. Oh yeah, I insisted on it. She handed it to me like it was no big deal. That's when I confirmed it. Nate was seated comfortably with her college friends. The table right near the dance floor, close enough to catch every second of our vows. That same night, I went into our shared drive and made a quiet little edit, just a few seat swaps, nothing dramatic. Nothing she'd notice on paper. But in reality, enough to make a dent. And then here's the real kicker. I started wondering. If she could hide one name, what else was on that list? So I went back and checked the whole thing, carefully, slowly, line by line, and man, that's when I found it. Another name, buried further down. Brandon M. And my heart just stopped, because I knew that name too. Not as her ex. No, worse. That was the guy she swore she only hooked up with once, back when we were on a break. The one she said meant nothing. The one she promised was a mistake. But guess what? There he was. Sitting right there on the list, table 8, with her extended family. I couldn't even breathe for a second. It felt like the air in the room just disappeared. And yet, she never mentioned it. Not once. Not in all the late night talks about how special this day would be. Not when we were writing vows. Not when she cried over her dress fittings. So, yeah, that's when I stopped wondering whether this wedding was about us, and started realizing it was more about her. About how she wanted to be seen, how she wanted to keep doors open, keep people close. Even if it meant putting me in the middle of something messy. So I adjusted the chart, moved Nate, moved Brandon, didn't delete them, didn't uninvite anyone. I just changed the perspective a little, you know? Let the audience see itself. I printed a copy and slipped it into the final files without a word. Then I sat down, watched her rehearse her first dance with her friend, and thought, how did I get here? How did I end up marrying someone who thought this was okay? I didn't have an answer. But I knew I didn't need to raise my voice, didn't need to cause a scene. The seating chart, it would speak loud enough on its own. All I had to do was wait. The morning of the wedding felt quiet. Too quiet. Not peaceful, not calm, just off. You know that weird silence where everything looks normal but something under the surface feels like it's waiting to snap? That kind. I woke up before the alarm, stared at the ceiling for a while. My tie was already laid out, shoes lined up by the door. Everything was where it needed to be, except my head. She was in the other room getting her makeup done, laughing with her bridesmaids like this was the happiest day of her life. And maybe for her it was. Truth is, I wasn't nervous the way most grooms probably are. I wasn't thinking about the vows or the kiss or whether my hands would shake when I put on the ring. I was thinking about table 4, about Nate, about Brandon, About the fact that two people who were never supposed to be in the same room again were about to be seated 3 feet apart with nothing between them but a centerpiece and a folded napkin. And neither of them knew it. Yet. James, my best man, showed up around 10. He slapped my shoulder, handed me a hot coffee, and said, "Today's the day, man." I nodded, smiled a little, didn't say much. I hadn't told him. Didn't want to drag him into something he couldn't fix. It wasn't his burden. I figured if things blew up, I'd take it on myself. He gave me space, thank God. We got dressed, snapped a few photos, fake laughed through the poses. Then came the part where guests started arriving. That's when the energy shifted. I watched from a side window, pretending to check my tie in the mirror. One by one they came in relatives, old friends, co-workers, and then Nate. I recognized him instantly. Same smug grin. Same, I'm the guy everyone wants to talk to walk. He wore a gray suit, sunglasses still on like he thought he was too cool for natural light. I watched him approach the seating board, pause, and lean in. His head tilted slightly, brows pulled together. Confusion maybe, or curiosity. He was looking for his name, and he found it. Table 4, front and center, direct view of the head table. Surrounded by people who knew her well, and who definitely didn't know him. Then came Brandon. Half an hour later. Dark blue suit, unbuttoned collar like he wanted to look casual, cool. He looked tired, or maybe hungover. That slicked back hair, that fake charm. He walked up to the chart too. Same pause, same confusion. But this time, I saw his mouth move. He muttered something, like "no way" or "you've got to be kidding me." I couldn't hear, but I didn't need to. And that's when it hit me. I'd created a collision. Quiet, perfect, and unavoidable. I stepped away from the window and headed out back where the coordinators were lining up the wedding party. My chest felt tight, but not from fear. From tension. Controlled tension, like holding a note in your throat but refusing to sing. A few people whispered that there was some weird energy at table 4. One of the coordinators gave me a look and said, "Hey, are Nate and Brandon supposed to be sitting together?" I just shrugged. It's where they were placed. Let's not overthink it. And I walked away. Guests took their seats. Music started. Bridesmaids went down the aisle. Her dress was perfect, like from a magazine. She smiled like nothing in the world could go wrong. She locked eyes with me and whispered, "You look nervous." I said, "Just taking it all in." And I was. Every inch of it, every breath. Every step closer to the moment this little chart would start speaking for itself. The ceremony went fine. Too fine. Beautiful vows, a few tears, that applause you hear in wedding videos where everyone claps like they believe in love. But the reception, that's where it got interesting. Everyone made their way inside. The seating chart was moved to the front. She was too busy hugging relatives to notice anything off. I was watching table 4. Brandon was already seated, arms crossed, looking irritated. Nate walked over with a glass of wine and froze when he saw him. Brandon looked up. Their eyes locked. For a few seconds, neither moved. Like time had hiccuped. Nate raised an eyebrow. Brandon let out a fake laugh. Then they both looked toward the head table toward us. Toward her, she was still smiling, still unaware. And that's when Nate leaned in and whispered something to Brandon. I couldn't hear it. But Brandon's face changed. He looked stunned, then angry, then amused. He chuckled, loud enough for a few people around the table to turn. A cousin of hers glanced over, whispered something to another bridesmaid. The ripple had begun, a quiet little wave that would reach the head table in a matter of minutes, and she had no idea it was coming. That's what I remember most about that moment. Not the cake, not the lights, not the first dance. I remember her standing near the bar, sipping champagne, looking happy, right before everything changed. It didn't explode right away. That's what surprised me. No one stood up shouting. No punches were thrown. No wine glasses shattered on the floor. But something far quieter, and honestly far worse, started to unfold. It began with glances. You know the kind when one person whispers something to another, then both of them look at the same person across the room. That started happening around table 4. Then table 5. Then one of her bridesmaids walked over and whispered in her ear. Her smile faltered. Just a bit. She scanned the room, trying to look calm. But her eyes were searching. Fast. Panicked. She looked at me for a second, like maybe I could tell her what was happening. I held my drink, gave her a small smile, nothing more. Then she walked. straight over to table 4. Nate stood up when she got there. Brandon stayed seated. She leaned in, said something. Her tone was low but tight. Nate just tilted his head, shrugged. Then he looked at Brandon and said something. I don't know what it was, but Brandon laughed. Like, loud. Too loud for the room we were in. Heads turned. Someone said, "What's going on?" A cousin started filming. I kept sipping my drink. She was trying to control it. I could see her hands. Her fingers were digging into her wrist the way she does when she's stressed. She was talking fast. Nate nodded once, slowly. Brandon stood up. Now both of them were standing, facing her. She turned her back for a second, and that's when Brandon said it. I couldn't hear it from across the room, but based on the people nearby, they heard it. I saw one of her aunts gasp. Another guest raised her eyebrows like, "No way." And then, the wave really hit. I walked over slowly, not rushing, not running. Just walked. I reached the table right as she was turning back toward me, her face flushed and tight. "Can we talk?" she said, grabbing my wrist. "Sure," I said. "Here?" "No, outside." "Why?" I asked, voice steady. "Because Brandon's lying," she snapped under her breath. "And Nate's being weird. This is stupid. It's ruining everything." "Is it?" I said. She froze. For half a second. Just long enough for me to know she realized I knew. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice dropping. "Just change the seating chart," I said. "Figured if we're inviting the past, we might as well seat it together." She let go of my wrist, looked down, then looked at Nate, then Brandon. Both men weren't looking at her anymore. They were talking to each other, like they were comparing notes. I watched her mouth tighten. She said, "You did this on purpose." "No," I said. "You did. I just gave it a better view." She stormed off. Back inside, I didn't follow. I stepped out onto the patio, looked up at the sky. It was supposed to rain that day. Forecast said 70% chance. But the sky stayed clear, blue, cold, still. I stood out there for maybe 5-10 minutes, heard the music change, heard her voice somewhere behind me. I didn't turn around. I just waited. Eventually, James came out. "You good?" he asked. "Not really," I said. "But I'm clear. She's talking to her mom. People are asking questions." "Let them," I said. I walked back in, took my seat at the head table. Alone, they served dinner, quietly. Everyone was eating, but no one was really eating. People whispered more than they chewed. I looked at Nate. He avoided my eyes. I looked at Brandon. He smirked at me, gave a slow nod, like he finally understood what this day was really about. Then I looked at her, sitting across the room now, not beside me, with her hands in her lap, staring at her plate. Truth is, I didn't make a scene, didn't cancel anything, didn't scream. I let the seating chart tell the story, and it did, better than I ever could have. That night, we didn't go to the hotel suite together. I went alone. She stayed back to explain things to her parents. We didn't talk the next day, or the next. A week later, she moved out of our apartment, left her key in the mailbox. That was the last time we spoke. No big dramatic ending, just silence. And honestly, that was enough. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure. I just needed the truth. To sit down at the same table and watch itself unravel.